Hello and welcome everyone to this week's edition of the Friday Club, courtesy of Campus 24 and in association with our friends at AMKIS. My name is Dominic Moon and I'm your host of our fortnightly interviews with some of the biggest names in admissions and marketing arena. This week's guest is no stranger to the spotlight as she shot to fame alongside Kevin MacLeod in an episode of Grand Designs. And yes, of course, they went over budget. So Jenny Shillady has been head of marketing at Dollar Academy, her alma mater, for 4.5 years. After studying marketing and economics at university, she spent 12 years in the drinks industry, explains a lot, marketing a host of premium spirits, liquors and beers on a national and international basis. During her career, she has worked on brands including the Famous Grouse, the Macallan, Highland Park and Lafroig whiskies, I think. Wild Turkey, you say it. Wild Turkey bourbon and Sky vodka, as well as Star Apartment, Coors Light, and Sharp beers. That's more familiar to me. After having her 2 children, Jenny was drawn back to the stunning scenery of Dollar in 2018 and into a newly created head of marketing role at the school. Wow, talk about good timing, Jenny. Welcome. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Very excited to be talking to you this morning. Okay. Now, not many people might have heard of Dollar. Certainly, most people would not be able to find Dollar on a map. And then if I told them it's in Stirlingshire, they'd still be scratching their head. And if I said it's north of Edinburgh, turn left, turn right up the main road, there you are. It's a beautiful village. It's tiny. Yet here we have this mammoth, huge, 1,300 pupil beast, 100 borders, great architecture, successful. My question, considering all those factors, is how? How did that happen?
I'd love to say it's great marketing, but I think the school's been around for 200 years. We're the oldest co-educational day and boarding school in the world. So I think there's a lot of word of mouth. We're really well known within the local area. And although we're kind of in the middle of nowhere, we're less than an hour from Edinburgh, Glasgow, Perth. We kind of take in Bridge of Allen and Stirling. We take in kind of right into Fife, like over towards St Andrews Way as well, up to Crieff. So we've got a pretty big catchment area within which there's sort of pockets of quite affluent areas. And, I think we've got we're really lucky. We've got a great reputation. And so, a lot of people move to the area for the school. So awareness is pretty high.
Yeah. So those areas, again, I know where they are because I go to Scotland quite a bit to see the schools. They are seemingly distanced quite a long way away, but because there's nobody on the blooming roads, I suppose, you can get in and out. How many coaches do you have going out? It's just like a whole.
Loads. Yeah, it's like it's a complex maneuver, to get everyone in and out. I think there's about 12 buses, and we're kind of constantly looking at demand, and sort of putting on new bus routes. We're looking at adding a new one for next year. So it is a really important part of our kind of day recruitment market.
A lot of schools are talking about school shape and school size at the moment. This seems to be very much a trend. The school size, is it about right? Do you have conversations of that nature with senior management? We're constantly talking about VAT and speed bumps, perhaps.
Yeah.
Does it feel the right shape now and the right size for you?
Yeah, I think we're kind of at capacity. We can't really, we've got no plans to get any bigger. We're the biggest we've ever been. When I was at the school about 20 years ago, we were sitting about 1,100, 1,150. So we've grown about kind of 200 since then, mostly within the senior school, and there's kind of new buildings going up to accommodate that. And we're looking at a kind of big new building project at the moment. But yeah, there's sort of no plans to go any bigger than we are.
Okay, so let's move on to something a bit more familiar now in terms of marketing. Obviously, our audience are very keen to hear what you have to say and the tricks you employ. Now, location is a famous saying. Marketing a school in Scotland, is it trickier? Does it feel tricky to you? What are the challenges you face competing against all the other schools sort of in Scotland, wider field into the UK and then perhaps globally? And do you go around saying you're 2 hours from London, which some of your friends perhaps might have done in the past.
Yeah, we don't lead with the 2 hours from London. I mean, I think it's a bit disingenuous. I mean, I think marketing skills anywhere is complicated. I think being in Scotland is definitely tricky. You've got your families who just want to look at English schools, who just want London, just want within an hour of London. So yeah, I mean, I think it is tricky. Being called Dollar Academy is also adds another layer of complexity, because academy in Scotland is just a really generic term for a school, whereas obviously in England it has very specific meanings. So yeah, these are all things I've sort of had to learn and sort of adapt to. I mean, that being said, Scotland is, I mean, I'm a bit biased because I'm Scottish, but it's a beautiful country. There's stunning scenery. It's viewed by a lot of international families as being very safe, being sort of very welcoming. I think COVID has probably done us a favor in that sense, lots of sort of fresh air and things. So yeah, I mean, I think there's pros and cons. We run the Scottish education system, which again, we have lots of families going, well, are you A level or IB? And we're neither. We offer a few A levels, but we're mostly Scottish. So it's just a bit of a sort of education game and trying to explain it in as simple a way as possible.
Yeah. And is that through the just sort of marketing collateral that you create to try and say it's okay, it's called something different, but pretty much it's going to be similar-ish?
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately we say, you can get into university all over the world. Almost a third of our kids go to unis in England, so it's not an issue. We've got kids going to Ivy League colleges in the US, so I think that's important. And also the fact that you study a broader range of subjects further up, and almost you've got sort of 2 shots at big exams, rather than just big A levels. You've got hires in what we call 5th year at sort of 16, 17, and then advanced hires in your final year. So actually a lot of people, once you explain that, actually quite like it, but you do need to get them to a point where they're willing to engage in a conversation about it, which is sometimes that's the hard bit, isn't it? It's getting in front of people or getting them to the point that they're going to be willing to listen.
Yeah, no, that's right. And you mentioned something which was interesting there, because you when you were talking, it sounds like you were almost on the coalface yourself in terms of getting them to listen, using a different vocabulary. And as a marketeer, do you feel yourself morphing towards admissions, perhaps getting your hands dirty on areas of business that you either just by default, and it's probably arguably not in your job description?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably more so with boarding than with day. I'm really lucky that we've got a really good team here in marketing and admissions, and we all get on really well. We work really closely together. I mean, I think in order to be good at your job as a marketeer, you need to be inquisitive. You need to ask questions. You need to be curious. And in order to do that effectively, you need to be speaking to the customers. You need to be understanding what's motivating them, and sort of what they're out to get, what's important. So I mean, I think it's a really important part of the job. So yeah, I mean, I think it is interesting. I mean, it was, it's similar in any industry. I think when you're marketing, you need to be speaking to your customers. Otherwise, you're kind of sitting in an ivory tower, not really knowing what's going on in reality.
Do you get involved in things like tours and obviously open days you'll be instrumental, I suspect, but in sort of the everyday cut and thrust of admissions, touring? And
yeah, I mean, I don't do that many tours. Like I will do some tours, but I mean, I think it's speaking to agents, getting out there, speaking to families, prospective families at sort of events and stuff. I think that's sort of, that sort of stuff's really crucial. And I don't think you can do your job effectively as a marketing person if you're not doing that as well.
No, okay, I get that. So you work really closely with admissions.
Yeah.
Some don't. In terms of geographical location within the school power base, where's your territory? Where's your empire? Are you with the admissions together, shouting at each other, Jenny, do more, we need more inquiries?
Yeah, we all share an office. So marketing, admissions, and sort of development and sort of alumni relations, we're all in an office together. So
okay.
We work really closely, and it's hearing the conversations that are had on the other end of a phone call. I mean, it's picking up little nuggets, looking at where inquiries are coming from. I mean, it's kind of invaluable. So I think it's really important.
Can you imagine a situation where you weren't in the same area, and the things that the nuggets that you just miss out on? I bet it's mind blowing to think that would happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, it just wouldn't make any sense. I know there are skills out there that have that sort of setup, but I mean, even if you're meeting, you can set as many weekly meetings as you want, but overhearing something on the phone, or just a sort of offhand comment, or observation at the end of a phone call that you might miss if you're not in the room. I mean, I think that's, yeah, I guess I'm lucky that dollar is the way it is in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be a matter of luck. It should be strategy. And why would you not do that? What is the argument against not having you all together?
Yeah, I can't think of one. I guess logistically it might be tricky for some, but it's,
yeah. I find it fascinating. Okay, so some of your success born out the location in terms of how you're lumped together, picking up little bits of nuggets and that kind of stuff. The school's obviously successful, so those kind of things go hand in hand. Schools arguably try and steal oxygen from each other to look more shiny, look better. How good can your excellent pastoral get? Oh, as is better than theirs. How do you define a message or wider still create a strategy which fundamentally is based on everybody? You've done it in drinks, I suspect. A lager's a lager, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, it's it is definitely the case in schools. It's really boring, isn't it? Like, excellent pastoral care, huge co-curricular range. I mean, it's kind of a given, isn't it? Right? Like, but I mean, marketing vodka, I mean, it's a clear colorless substance that, nobody can taste a difference on, a sort of blind taste test panel. So, it's something I've sort of dealt with my whole career. And I think, we can think of our kind of key points of difference, and we're the oldest co-educational day and boarding school in the world. It's like, well, great, but actually, so what? Like, what does that mean to the customer? And I think that's the part that I think a lot of people get to and then kind of struggle with. They'll kind of reel off all these stats, but it's like, people are kind of selfish. It's like, okay, well, that's really interesting. What does that mean for my family, or what does that mean for me? And I think if you're not able to do that, you're going to struggle.
It's features and benefits, right? I mean, I can't believe we were going back that far to say that. I mean, let's just talk about a clear colorless liquid. It's pretty damn good, to be fair. So let's not knock the vodka people. They do a fantastic job and keep us all sane. Plus, the gin people need a shout out too. But when you came in 4.5 years ago from a really fast moving industry, global challenges, very, very cutthroat, margins are tight, and it's all about market share and analysis and all that kind of stuff. Because I've worked in the sector with you as well. When you came in, did you look at the school and go, oh my God, what are they doing? These guys how do they even survive this long? Was it without being mean to all the people who worked before you and hope they're not listening?
No, I mean, I think to an extent, I mean, we're kind of lucky that, the school's always been in pretty good shape. And we've got a really good reputation. So, we've kind of always got by. But I mean, I think, you never want to rest on your laurels, do you? And, looking at kind of what we were doing, there was definitely room for improvement. But I mean, I think the kind of, what's maybe different between education and like a vodka is, as a sort of marketing or like brand manager on a vodka, you are like central to the sort of new product development and sort of this setting the strategy basically for the brand. And I think that's probably different in a lot of schools where, that's done by the heads, or, we've got SSG, SLT, whatever you want to call it, and I think that as a sort of marketing person within a school, you really need to be brave and challenge that and go, okay, well, that's great, but why, why are we different then to, X, Y, and Z school up the road, and what sets us apart, and kind of be brave enough to challenge that. I'm quite direct. I'm quite, a former boss called me like black and white girl, because I was just like, no, it's rubbish. Yeah, it's amazing. But I kind of think you need to have that confidence in your ability, and again, it all comes back to insight and like listening to customers, asking the questions, understanding what people are looking for, and then looking at new kind of opportunities for growth, and for kind of key points are going to make you stand out against your
Yeah.
competitive set. Because I mean, let's face it, for boarding, sometimes you're competing geographically, but a lot of the time you're competing with schools, different parts of the country and other countries. It's really tricky. It's tough, but marketing any brand is tough.
Yeah. Yes, it is tough. We know it's tough, and some people will think, "Oh, well, it's that easy, isn't it?" I mean, there's some people in education think it's really easy. I drink vodka, so everyone else drinks vodka. That's my sample, and that's that. I mean, being brave is probably a really good takeaway for people listening in, I suspect, because you have your machinery inside the school and your hierarchy.
Yeah.
And that's based on educational muscle, cerebral classroom stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Marketing is a whole other different sphere for these people. I'm saying, talking about academics more so than anything else. And
that's what I struggled with a little bit. I think when I started was, as a marketeer in the commercial sector, there's a sort of, everyone in the business knows what you do, and there's a sort of, respect. I mean, probably respect for, okay, you're a professional doing a really important job, and we kind of understand what your role and remit is. And in schools, certainly at Dollar, that really wasn't the case when I started. But I mean, I think again, it's like you can kind of lie back and go, okay, that's kind of the way it is, or you can go, no, this is this is different. So I've kind of spoken at inset days, I've spoken to just after I started, we got an HR manager. Imagine that, 250 plus staff, and it's like, but saying, okay, well, could I speak to all the new starts at the start of the year, and just for 10 minutes, just kind of do a kind of quick intro to this is marketing, this is what I see your role in terms of sort of being a brand ambassador, this is what we kind of expect from you, this is how we can help support you and what you're doing, because it's a two-way street. So I mean, I think it's really easy to kind of grumble, but you've sort of got to just try and change it.
I love the fact with your new starts, it's hard to do with the ones who've been there for a million years. The new starts, you bring them in, you give them sort of the evangelical, this is marketing, this is what we do. You're a brand ambassador, which I think is a wonderful thing. And my question is, does it work? Does it help? Is it because they're young, they're sort of like little puppies, really excited to get involved, they're more receptive, and you can set them on the right path?
I mean, I think so. It's still really early days, so it's probably a bit too early to tell here. But I mean, I think they do seem to accept it, and for a lot of them, it might be their first time working in an independent sector. I mean, it's really tricky for them. It's like I didn't understand what teachers did, before I started here. So there's a degree of kind of learning on both sides, but. If you come to work in the independent sector, there's loads of perks, you get paid more, but then you're also expected to do more, in terms of helping with co-curricular. And in my mind, sort of helping to sell the school is just part of that, that sort of extra that we ask for. And I mean, I think I'm quite lucky. Like, I get on really well with the teachers here, and, most of them do get it. There's always going to be some that have been around forever that just don't really understand what you do. You do Facebook. And you're like, okay, yeah, amongst other things. But I think also trying to flip around and help them out with stuff. So they're organizing the event, be like, okay, do you want us to help you promote that? Do you want us to help, create, collateral, whatever? And there's lots of assets and resources that we have that we can help. And I think once you build that, marketing's all about relationships, isn't it? And, internal relationships as well as external. And I think once people get it, the penny drops, then life is a lot easier. I had our director of music come up to me going, where would it be useful for me to go on a music tour to? What markets are you looking at? And I thought, oh my God, it was one of those, like, after 4.5 years, like, eureka moments where I went, yes. And I came through and I got into my office. I was like, oh my God, just
the little tear.
This was like an emotional moment for me. And I remember I told our head, my boss, and he was like, yes. I was like, yes. It's the school's been around for 200 years. It's a sort of culture change. And I think most people get it. They do. It's maybe a bit intimidating, but they kind of understand it, and some are just naturally happier doing that sort of thing than others, and that's fine. But you need to know the people to then know who's going to be able to help you.
It'll start with the music and arts and drama, and then slowly move its way down to DT, and then end up sort of eventually in science and maths, possibly. I don't know.
We'll get there.
It's just a little salver. Talk to me about strategy at the moment, your promo strategy, your thoughts, things that you've going on. Are you focused on digital, various mix, outdoor, TV, paper, bus, T-sides, train stations? What's your favoured?
And we're doing a lot more digital than we were. I mean, when I started, there was a lot of like what I would class as vanity marketing going on. So there was a lot of, big billboards and, ad in the Times. And it's like, what's this actually generating for us? So definitely doing less of that and more digital so we can be really targeted. That said, I think it's very easy to jump on like the, digital is the future bandwagon. And I think, no one channel has all the answers, otherwise the others wouldn't exist. And I think, it can be really tempting to kind of chuck all your eggs in the digital basket and then have a nice, report at the end of, every month going, well, this is how many click-throughs we generated and the cost. And, for some people that's great, and it is good, you need to evaluate your data, but then, there still needs to be a mix, I think. So yeah, we're doing a lot more digital than we were, but I think, it's definitely part of the marketing strategy, not the entire marketing strategy.
Okay, little and often, and like a good diet, I suppose, where it's just don't put all your eggs in one basket, and balance. The vanity marketing one is still a victim of schools are still a victim of the vanity marketing. For our good friends, the governors, of course. Why weren't we in Surrey Life or Sussex Life or whatever life is? It's like,
yeah, because our target audience don't read it.
Yeah.
And again, it kind of comes back to then you kind of then need to be doing the sort of market research to be able to prove that. So it's, asking everyone who signs up, would you mind filling out this quick questionnaire about, how you heard about us and what you thought about it when you came, and getting those kind of nuggets each year, but then being able to go back and go, out of 100 families that joined, not one said that they saw the ad in, whatever it was. So let's not spend thousands of pounds. I mean, I think a lot of the time we're doing it just because other schools are doing it. We need to work together a bit more as schools. I feel like we're being sort of taken advantage of. There's that sort of FOMO thing of we don't want to be the only school that's not in this sort of independent schools supplement or guide. And it's like, what are any of us getting for this?
No. Are you still doing prospectuses? Are you still printing?
Yeah, we are, and I think we're actually reprinting the prospectus at the moment. We don't hand out loads and loads of them, and the kind of with the reprint and the redesign, we've tried to make it more of a sort of coffee table book feel. So lots of images, fewer words, but something to have lying around. I mean, I think for the sort of, there's a lot of grandparents involved. I think more now, with sort of financial pressures than ever before. And I think, they like to have it. And, a lot of families like, to have something to flick through or to show their kids, So, I mean, I'm definitely not a sort of like, QR codes all the way, but equally, it's sort of quality over quantity. So we have a main prospectus, we have a boarding prospectus, which goes into a lot more detail. But I think, my sort of whiskey packaging background, they're all now like gold foiled and soft touch laminate covers and stuff. So, it is a sort of nice thing to have, and they are expensive. So we don't just sort of chuck them out, all over the shop. But
you just, somebody tries to take one, you'll hold on to thinking, oh, you're not a buyer. You just give it back.
How serious are you?
Is it a time at the moment or are you rather starting any big projects, big website launches, rebrands? We're facing VAT, or potentially we're facing, global economic crisis. We've got wars and all these different factors taking place, and people reading it, which is the problem. People are reading this news and going, oh my God. Is it a time to start doing things, or arguably to stick where you are and not do anything? I mean, you could argue it's a good time to do it when nobody else. I don't know, because you're from the drinks. That's what drinks do really well. In a recession, they kind of move forward, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely kind of, I guess, that's been kind of drilled into me my whole career is, you've got to kind of keep investing in it. And I think, as a school, we are definitely still investing. We're looking at launching like a new Futures Institute building, which is huge CapEx project. Really ambitious in terms of this, the scope and the scale. It's going to be one of the first living building challenge accredited structure in Scotland, only the second in the UK. Going to be net positive, for sort of carbon emissions and things and energy use. So I mean, it's a complicated building, but we sort of started thinking about this 2 years ago when we launched all these sort of free online like interdisciplinary courses, and we always wanted to build a sort of hub for it. And I think it would have been really easy to go, okay, no, let's keep the money in the bank, and but we're going for it, and I think it's it's ballsy, but I think it's the right move. I think as a sector we need to be future proofing ourselves. And I think as independent schools, we have the freedom to do things differently and to try out new things and new ways of working. I mean, it's very Scotland specific, but the Scottish Qualifications Authority, which run all the exams and stuff up here in the coursework, the OECD have just issued a damning report, and it's being completely replaced. By what? But I think as a sort of leading Scottish school, it's like, okay, well, let's try and come up with some of the solutions to that. So it's all sort of project based and working with experts from industry and uni and stuff. So I've actually been getting involved in like course development. So I mean, in terms of like stretching your remit, they're like, well, you've worked in industry, like what do you think kids need to be able to do? I'm like, well, they don't need to be able to like memorize stuff, they need to be able to speak to each other and work in teams. And so that's been really interesting. And I think something that when I started wasn't on my remit, this wasn't even on the table, but I think it's been a really interesting project to be part of, and kind of seeing stuff a little bit from the other side as well.
It's one of the most powerful marketing tools you can have, is when you're breaking ground and digging and building, because it sends such a powerful message, doesn't it? Look, we're financially secure for starters, otherwise we wouldn't be digging a hole in the ground and building these things. And then you've got this living building, which I would love to go. I'm not going to go into it now. I would love to just drill down and continue to talk about that, but I think we should keep that a secret for a bit longer, and we'll see.
I'm sitting on weekly design team meetings with like engineers and architects and landscape architects, and and it's brilliant, and it's great that marketing is being involved in that, because they're like, well, this is really important to the future strategic direction of the school, and to be kind of part of that. But then also, I guess, to have my kind of background being valued a little bit.
I wonder how many marketing people are sitting out there going, oh, what would happen in my school if we did that? They'd probably just say, shut up, sit back, and we'll tell you when we need you to tell everybody else about it.
Yeah. I mean, you go out there, I mean, industry are like, kids are coming out of school and uni, not being able to do the stuff that we need them to be able to do. I mean, we're kind of failing, right? And it's nice as a sort of non-teacher to be able to kind of be part of that a little bit. So yeah, it's so sorry, long-winded, but to answer your original question, like, we're still investing and looking to the future, because I think as a sector we have to right now. There's so many external pressures and threats out there that sort of just business as usual, I don't think is going to cut it.
Business as usual, it's not going to cut it. Okay, brilliant. So we've come to the end, Jenny. Thank you very much. Be brave. Talk to those new members of staff. Forget about the vanity marketing. Keep investing, keep smiling, work together, be in the same office if you can with your alumni and your admissions sets, or linking to the current school's success. Right, my quick fire round at the end. I do this every time. So here we go. Who is your hero?
So the Chinese emperor that supposedly discovered tea, because I drink. I mean, I literally couldn't live without it. Like, it's a joke in the office, like, do you want a cup of tea? I'm always like, yeah. I mean,
never say no. Okay, tea belly.
Cup of tea. Tea Jenny. I live up to my name.
Tea Jenny. If you could live anywhere?
I mean, I love living in Scotland. Like, I don't think I'd move, but I'd love to have more money and be able to travel more.
Okay, fair enough. Your biggest fear?
I hate spiders. I could detest them. I hate any small thing that moves too fast proportionate to its size, but spiders are up there.
I know a couple of little admissions people who can do that. Beach or snow?
Beach, always.
Okay. What's your karaoke song?
Probably Don't Stop Believing, but I need to be pretty well oiled.
One of those vodkas. What's your nickname?
I don't have a nickname now, but at school I was called Sprog because I was really tiny.
Sprog. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that one. If you went back in time, where would you go?
Um,
To the Chinese emperor, back to where he found his
yeah,
tea.
high five him. Probably like ancient Rome. Like I did Latin at school and I loved all that stuff. So yeah, I think that would be pretty cool.
I think I won't be far behind you. What is the one thing you will never do again?
Drink fermented mare's milk, which I'd had in Mongolia once, and it was the worst thing that I have ever consumed in my life.
That's a hot tip right there. Fermented
Mare's milk, so like from a
mare.
horse. Yeah, and they just leave it in the summer and it sort of curdles and it's like a delicacy. So when you go into their yurts, you know, that you get one and you have to be all thank you, and you have to drink enough of it to not be rude, but you don't finish it because then it gets topped up again. And yeah, I mean, I can't even drink cow's milk, so this was not cool.
Okay, that's a
Never do it.
hot traveler's tip for those who are going out to Mongo. Jenny, thank you so much. That's been really informative and fantastic to hear about all your exploits and all your things that you've got going on and getting insight into the marketing of a Scottish school. Thank you, everybody. That's it from us for this week. We'll see you in 2 weeks with another fabulous guest. Have a great time. Have a great week. Everybody stay safe. Thank you very much. Oh, hang on. We need to stop the recording first. Are you sure you want to stop the recording on the cloud? Yes. Right.
Is that okay?